Welcome to the Reinventing Mark Clark podcast. I am your host, Mark Clark. And of course, this episode, our Motivating Monday episodes, are recorded at the House of Chiefs, 4603 York Road in Baltimore, Maryland. This week, we feature D.Chase, a.k.a. Derrick Chase. In the house was Catherine Pugh. We heard a positive message from her. She did not want to be recorded, and so we did not capture that, but we did capture Derrick Chase and his amazing story. I know you'll enjoy it. Make sure you follow us and tell everybody about this podcast. Catherine Pugh. I was talking, that's right. That's a motivating Monday for your ass. I was just sitting there and just thinking about, all of our leaders, all the people who have the guts to step up, to try and be a leader. They tried to destroy Catherine Pugh. They tried to destroy, not just get her out of office, that's not enough. They tried to destroy our black leadership. And I think, again, I don't think we give it enough thought. We don't give it enough support. Again, just think of our young mayor. They're trying to destroy their brother. They're trying to destroy them. And again, it's not enough to get them voted out of office. They want to kill you. And again, tonight was special because we got a chance to see a side of you after they tried to destroy you. And you're just as strong and just as bad as us. You won't be stopped. We won't be stopped. And it's just, again, sometimes we get caught up in our lives. We're out here trying to survive. So that's the other part of it. We got our own lives, we got our this, we got that. But if we don't, like you said, if we don't start doing this, if we don't start coming together on some level, if we don't start, I got to beef with this person, he said something. No, whatever he said, let's get past that. Let's support it. Let's move forward. Thank you so much, Catherine. I appreciate that. Okay. All right. So, this brother right here now, D.Chase. So, what hasn't D.Chase done? D.Chase, I was rolling with the Muslim brother a few years ago. He was like, oh, D.Chase? Oh, man, back in the day, D.Chase used to blah, 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 blah. I first met Raheem Devon in Morgan State. The first time I ever met Raheem Devon, I was like, D.Chase, he used to be my manager, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what has D.Chase not done? From fitness, if you've ever seen the barbell guys in New York, they do those push-ups and all that stuff, the bar. D.Chase used to, I'm like, man, boxing, business, promotion, marketing. D.Chase is your ultimate brother that everybody knows who is going to be there for you. There's not a neighborhood, back to Catherine Pugh, I don't know what it is about Baltimore, these people, D.Chase ain't scared. I saw D.Chase fight with a neighbor last time I saw you after practice, Fox 45. Apparently a white lady's trying to get him out of his building. He ain't get me out of my building. But at the end of the day though, Chase, come on up, Chase. Come on, give it up. Chase. Oh, wait, what's going on here? Okay, now wait a minute. That damn Father Time is coming for all of us. Chase is a real brother. Chase is a brother. Chase is black. He's a man of the community. Beautiful dude. And I can't wait to hear your story. I know you got quite a story, sir. So just give us one aspect of your story.
Well, first and foremost, much love and respect to you, Mark and Ertha. Ertha is my big sister. Yeah. Met Ertha at Morgan. We were at Morgan, right, and being who we are. And I led an organization up there called Legitimate Equality. Organization of the year for 10 years, but we influenced the campus. We had started a business. We was making like $3,000-4,000 a day at Morgan's campus. Had 17 employees. Right? We started something that was called the Wake Up Session. And the vision of the Wake Up Session was exactly that, to bring people into consciousness of not what they need to do now, that too, but projecting into the future, all right, and building and seeding them so that one day you could call upon them when they had arrived, right? So we were at Morgan. I got to Morgan. We started with that, all right? Well, first and foremost, Cheryl Lou's Crayon Brown baby boy, born in Pennsylvania in Gold, raised in Park Heights. Been all over the world, Asia, Africa, Tokyo, Mexico. We even went to the place where the people told me not to go. But I've never been out of Baltimore longer than 3 weeks. And I've seen the entire world. I'm committed to Baltimore, committed to us as a people, understanding our power, right? Thanks to all the educators. I was in this teacher, Mrs. Harrison's class, and I had just moved from the Avenue to Park Heights. I went to Malcolm X, and they had a group, 0201. They would wake up every morning, and they would say, the class, they would say, aim for a star. Never be satisfied with a life that's less than the best. Failure lies in not having tried and keeping the soul suppressed. Aim for a star, right? And I'm like, man, I want to get up there and say that. But 0201 was a smart class, and I was in 0203. That was the dumb class. You know how it was back in the day, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, like, if they ain't talking to nobody, they talking to me. But that poem seated me, and that poem was the strength that I needed. Of course, we moved to Park Heights in Shirley. 1975, I grew up in the crack 80s. I'm a Shirley boy. Anybody understand what a Shirley boy? You have Shirley Avenue, you have Park Heights and Woodland. I live 4747, which is at Park Heights and Woodland. I was battle tested, all right, there, all right. Never ran from a fight. I'm 22-0 in Park Heights, in real fights. So, you know, the spirit of Malcolm X, I left Malcolm X. He sent me to Dr. King, all right? And there was a flamboyantly gay black male there by the name of Dr. Clifton Ball, right, who had created something that was called the Declamation Contest. And the Declamation Contest was a contest where you had to memorize the Dr. King speech, right? And then, you know, he would have the contest in your class, you win the class, then you win the school. In fourth grade, I said, man, I just come out of Malcolm X, I got this love for words, you know what I mean? And said, give me the Dr. King. So they gave me King speech, and you had to memorize it. In order to memorize it, you got to look at it over and over and over and over and over again. You understand the speech? Damn, I guess that. So I came in third place in fourth grade. Fifth grade, I felt like Rashawn Rogers won fifth grade out of the class, but I felt like I beat Rashawn Rogers, but that's neither here nor there. Rashawn went on to win in fifth grade. Sixth grade, that's the crowning one. That's when you do the I Have a Dream speech. That's there's nobody who's going to beat me in this I Have a Dream speech. Right, so I started practicing early before I already knew it was coming. Every year they do it. And me studying that speech, memorizing that speech, something happened. The spirit of Dr. King actually got in me. So when they asked me, you know, as we, at that point in time, they were, you know, Green Spring was my zone school, and then you had Roland Park. So the teachers had pretty much put their arms around me by then. They called me Chase Manhattan. Now these are the teachers. Talking about them black women. Everybody I'm telling is black women, all right? And they put their hands around me, Chase Manhattan, and they would just fill me with just inspiration in terms of me believing in myself. I already believed in myself, but they gave me more. Man, I went out there, I never forget I was, you know, Park Heights. I had a orange V-neck sweater on, and I had a gold herringbone necklace, right? I'm going out there to do the Dr. King. But you know, Park Heights mess you up. You know how it is, Bill. So I go out there, and man, when I tell you, like, at some point, I stopped being myself. When I left that stage, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And everything else was just planted, and I had to figure out how, right? Figure out how. So I went to Roland Park, and one thing about being around a lot of white folks, eventually, you realize you don't really want to be around them too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all cool, but I like what we got. And so I left Roland Park, and of course, Poly was my first choice. City was my second choice. My mother said, you need to be. My mother was a young mother, right? 15. She had me. My father was 24. I met my father at 26, all right? So my mother said, you need to learn to do something with your hands because you always got to secure. You know, this thing is about security. Hell with all this other stuff, right? So I decided to go to Mervo instead of Poly or City. Well, I became Future Business Leaders of America president, all right? I was president of the senior class. I was voted most popular. I played the Scarecrow and the Wiz. I was a top 160-pound wrestler, right? So I was developing who I was at that Merle, and I always told my friends, we've given a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year, 25-year, 30-year, and now we're going into the 35-year. And the class of 89 runs Maryville Alumni Association. Alfred actually is on it now. He's the class of 88, but we influenced the class of 88, right? So, but it was always a steady march. You know, it wasn't like I didn't know. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So I left Maryville. I recognized one thing, because the year when I was 16, my father went back to prison. So my biological father, I met him at 26, but the person that I called father, my mother actually built a relationship with him while she was going to see somebody else in prison, all right? So my father came home, and the only father that I knew, because I was like 18 months when he came home, was Milton, but I knew he wasn't my father, but we had a father-son relationship. So at 16, he goes back to prison. You know, when you go back to prison, I'm in Park Heights. Yeah, I learned a whole lot. My mother worked overnight. I wound up getting arrested. It's my first encounter with the police. After actually it was a big fight in Park Heights. I broke the fight up, made the two people soft. They came around and got into a big argument. The police officer pushed my sister, and I pushed the police officer down the steps. I did do that. I got locked up. Right? So, you know, I leave there, 16, get to my 17th year. My mother is in a position that she had never been. Now she's everything. He's away. She's everything. She's working a lot, and she wants to go to school. She wanted to go to nursing school. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So at 17, I took the money that I had and I sent my mother to college. So I sent my mother to college to nursing school. So when I came to Morgan, I knew it was one thing for certain, that I was going to have to pay for it myself. So I predicated my decision on going to Morgan. Well, can you pay for it? I worked for Rufus Stevens. I was Calvin. Anybody ever heard of McDonald's? Right, so I was right there, Ricetown, Cold Spring. And there was an entrepreneur by the name of Rufus Stevens. He took to me. And Mr. Stevens, gave me a scholarship, paid for my first semester. I went to the college, and my first day, like my first week, literally, I still got this keen thing in my head. And but I'm still a slick dude from Park Heights. I don't know if anybody remember the used stuff. Had a slick used outfit on, used jacket on, used jeans. This is important to my life story. Put it on my, I'm slick. You know what I mean? I always loved women. Yes, I did. All right. Still do. All right, but I'm just balanced, right? So I'm at Morgan. You know, I got the foot joys on, brown foot joys, used jacket, brown BVD shirt. You know, my hat was probably to the back. And I see this girl named Melody Quick. Melody was fine, DC girl. I said, wow, like they from everywhere. You know, Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? Prince George's County. I'm like, this is crazy up this joint. So, Bill, I'm not showing confidence. So I shoot my game. And it worked, it was working. But she said something to me. She said, yeah, she said, I like everything that you said. She said, except for one thing. I said, what do you mean? And we, it's a joking spirit. She said, brother, why you got this used outfit on? I said, you talking about used outfit? She said, you don't think that what you put on your body, and this is another 19-year-old girl checking me, right? What you put on your body is saying something about yourself. She said, you need to get with that brother right there. And you need to read what he read, do what he's doing. I turned over, there was a brother by the name of Al Muhammad, Nation of Islam. And he had the message to the black man. And he turned around, and I guess he saw the whole conversation, right? So I looked at him and I said, all right, give me the book. So I took that $10 and I bought the book. And I read Who's That Mystery God, which is how the book begins, right? And I read that book from cover to cover, probably in like maybe a couple of days. And when I came back, I had recognized, okay, this is starting to click, all right? In 1990, Morgan was involved in a protest, all right? Students had protested, they had taken over Truth Hall. This is my story. This is what makes me me, right? So they had taken over Truth Hall, and there was a group of guys. I met this real light-skinned guy named Ryan Adams, the most light-skinned, he was like the lightest light person ever, right? But he was always reading this shit, and I was always interested in information, especially around our people. And Ryan was in an organization called the Family of Tahimba. And the Family of Tahimba was in this room, and there was a battle. It was like school days. There was a battle of who was going to take power in this Truth Hall. You had these guys who were militant, Shantae Anderson, Brian Sneed, Ryan Adams, some of these other guys. B. Sneed. You had those guys, B. Sneed, militant, hat to the back, clean shaven, you know what I mean? We're going to lock the doors, right? And then you had another brother by the name of Travis Mitchell, right? Travis Mitchell went on to do some great things, and they were a little bit more settled but strategic. So I'm in this room. I get locked in this room with these guys. We took over the hall for like 6 days, and I'm locked in this room with the family of Tahimba, and I'm listening to all of this stuff that I had never heard before. Right? I just left Melody Quick. I got the book. I'm listening. I'm saying, man, my heart I left there. Like, what am I going to do, right? Fast forward, in that room was a girl. I said, I like girls, right? Named Helen Stewart, all right? Helen Stewart was from White Plains, and Helen Stewart was a vegan, all right? Extremely conscious. She was an organizer. By virtue of that relationship, Brian Sneed had another organization that he had created called the Gentleman Equality, and the Gentleman Equality was predicated based upon being a transformation agent for your people. All right, so I wanna be like my big brothers, a GQ, right? Like it resonated, all brothers, you know what I mean? Fitness, mental working out, poetry, theater, everything that I was about. So I became a member of this organization, and then the consciousness really began to quicken. I began to understand that my development and my impact was on the community was more so the impact that I had on disciplining myself. Right? So I began to speak as a student of a guy by the name of J. Krishnamurti. J. Krishnamurti is the same person who's the greatest influence on Bruce Lee. I didn't know that until I was looking at Bruce Lee's student. I said, he has to be influenced by Krishnamurti. It's true. Right? I also joined the Nation of Islam when I was in college. So I'm in the Nation, influenced by J. Krishnamurti. I went from eating one meal a day to one meal every day to one meal every 7 days. Right? I disciplined all of my sexual habits. All right? I disciplined my language. And then I began to really look at the students who were around me and say, well, how do you create and facilitate a process in which people can move in this direction? So we created the wake-up session. In the wake-up session, thousands of young people went through the wake-up sessions, and when you look at some of those people, Shantae McKinley, who runs 27 School, Abdul, all right, who runs his organization. Look at all these people. Yeah, I used to look at them, right? We created this organization, and we began to mentor all these people who are now serious people in the city. So all that to say is that I met Ertha Harris in 1993. Going back to Ertha. This comes back to Ertha because I saw Minister Farrakhan, all right? And I was like, that's my example. So I looked at Minister Farrakhan's example and began to follow that. I was the student organizer, the national student organizer for the Million Man March. Well, technically regional. I was the regional student organizer. So we went around all of the colleges and universities organizing to make sure there was a strong student present. Howard University, Morgan, UMES. And that's how I came in contact with Ertha and Bill and a lot of other people in this room, George. And I just, I had the right examples. I had the right people in my life. I studied the right people, and I was becoming. But I want to jump to Catherine Pugh, all right? And I want to tell you a story. I'm going to take my hat off. I had a haircut in 15 days. No, 22 days, right? And so I didn't know Mayor Pugh. I knew her on television. And she was actually running for mayor at the time. She was a state senator. And in the spirit of Catherine Pugh, we in New York, there's a basketball tournament called the basketball tournament, TBT tournament. But they gave away $1 million to the basketball. So I'm in New York, I see that, right? I had a guy by the name of Joe Connolly, who was a coach. His team lost in the quarterfinals every year. I'm like, bro, we need to make this a home game. So as they having this event, and they crown the winner, which is not Joe, I walk out onto the floor in New York, all right? And I asked Joe, who's the owners? I see the two white guys, right? They looking for security, real talk. They looking for security, like, who's this guy on the floor? So I engaged him. I said, look, man, y'all got something good here. I said, y'all got the basketball tournament. I said, y'all got a couple challenges. I said, number one, I don't see a lot of people in the stands. They this guy's out of order, right? So I said, a lot of people out there, look, y'all got one sponsor. And y'all playing this game in Fordham. I said, y'all competing with New York? Y'all competing with New York? Y'all think y'all gonna win in New York? I said, I think we can bring this to Baltimore. So how much y'all pay for the facility? They gave me the number. I said, well, what if we can get paid for free? I'm just talking, man. I'm just all this stuff off the cuff, right? I'm just winging it, right? And now they sitting there, well, if you can do all of this, right? They still looking like, who the hell is this guy? So I leave the floor. I got their interest. I got their contact, and I called, my mentor / business partner, LeBron Finney. I said, bro, we gonna bring this basketball tournament to the city. Now, understand, this is right after the uprising. I met Mayor Pugh, not in his office. I met Mayor Pugh at the corner of the 1500 block of Pennsylvania Avenue, all right across from whatever the restaurant is, because there was remnants of an uprising. So I met her in the street. She was a fighter out there. She out there by herself, like, you know what I mean? But fast forward, Mayor Pugh is running for state senate. I mean, she's a state senator. She's running for mayor. And I'm looking at the thing. I don't know if I had him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at it, and I said, well, who out there gonna win this thing? I said, I think she gonna win. So I'm studying her. She had no idea that I was studying her, right? I knew a lot about her history. I knew she was a cheerleader at Morgan. Because my philosophy in life is anybody who should be studied, right? Period. And I study people. I don't tell you I'm studying you, but I study you. And I saw all of her impact, not only through the stuff that she did at Morgan. I mean, she was involved. I think she was like working for the Mayor Schaefer a long time. I mean, it was every time I turned over a stone, you talking about me, she was behind the stone, right? Facts. So, Finney had a relationship with her. And he set a meeting in her office. The office was right there off of Drew Hill Avenue. My first time ever really being in her company. I'm sitting there quiet. Well, I think I'm quiet. And we pitched this to Mayor Pugh and say, if we do this and you win, will you do this? All right? Nobody don't know that. All right? And she won. And as a result of that, we were able to get the mayor on board, all right? Get all of the things. We had it at Coppin. Now, understand what had just happened at Coppin. But these are billionaire white boys. They're the 6th richest family in Boston, all right? In Boston. They own the Boston Symphony, they own it. The equivalent of Giant Foods, they own it. These are privileged white boys. We got them privileged white boys with the assistance of Mayor Pugh to have their $1 million basketball tournament on ESPN at Coppin State University. Y'all not hearing it. Right? Because of Mayor Pugh, we asked ESPN to run a positive article. We did something that was called the Day of Giving, where we repurposed and painted areas that had been destroyed amongst Pennsylvania Avenue. We had Mayor Pugh, with her permission and her assistance, we solicited all of the health organizations that was connected to Baltimore Health and Morgan. In addition to that, we had an economic summit. It was a lot of different things, youth summit. And then we took all of the kids from Baltimore City, Parks and Recs, and brought them to the game. So they had less than 300 people at the game. We had Coppin State University's full, and then we turned around and got it for another year and brought it to Morgan State University. Wow. Right? But that was a lot of that is because of Mayor Pugh's leadership. But that's not even the story. That's just how I met her. Right? I still don't really have a relationship with her, right? I know her now, but I don't have. So I write an article, you know what I'm saying, in one of the little community joints. I write this article. I don't really think it's scathing, you know what I'm saying? This is my thoughts. I get a call at like 11 o'clock at night. Take all the kids out. All the kids cover your ears.
Oh, what is your? One baby, somebody move.
Derrick Chase, what's your motherfucking problem? She, excuse me, who's this? I didn't have a number in my phone, right? She says, this is Mayor Pugh. So now I'm entertained, but I understand my place. She said, don't you write no article on me. She said, you see, you can, every time you got something to say to me or you got some information that you need to help make this city better, she said, You have my number now. You can call me direct. No, ain't no group. This ain't a group conversation. It's a conversation. So I said, okay. I said, excuse me, Mayor Pugh. I said, am I being cussed out by the mayor of Baltimore City? She was like, you're damn right. So I said, so what you saying is, Mayor Pugh, all right, if I have a suggestion about something to improve the city, I can call you direct, the mayor? She said, you're damn right. And that began my relationship with Mayor Pugh. Because she cussed me out. But that's who you had. Right? That's who we had as a mayor.
Yes, yes.
And what she was able to do, again, how I've been trained is to work outside of the system. Right? You know what I mean? Because I don't like asking. If I got to ask you 2 times, I'm either not going to do it or I'm just going to take it from you. Right? That's my spirit. I'm a Park Heights dude. I'm a real deal. You know what I'm saying? Ask them dudes. 22-0, that's a good record. And about 10 straight knockouts. You know what I'm saying? I never threw the first punch. I always did. So what I to say is that I had this relationship with Mayor Pugh, and I saw close up now her vision for the city. I saw how she had gotten community organizations who had never had no level of impact. And not only did she bring them together, but she opened up the channels for us to be directly in line, in alignment with all of her directors, so there would be and directed them, all right, to be of grave assistance to us or whatever we wanted to do. And a lot of things at that time really began to shift and change. We didn't have a relationship with each other. If you did something over there, we didn't know each other. There was no collective agenda, all right? And what Mayor Pugh was moving towards was a collective agenda where the people truly were in power, all right? She was economically focused. Yes. She knew that it wasn't about rhetoric. She knew that it was about economics. And she was actually creating an army around her, all right? And the attack on Mayor Pugh, all right, was because, number one, if she cussed me out, I'm quite sure she cussed a lot of other people. Because, leaders lead. They don't ask permission. Say, will you forgive me? All right? Or I don't care. But she has that type of spirit, all right? And she's a resource that on Friday at 10 o'clock, I just talked to Fetty. We taking out the breakfast because I told her we were going to have a meeting, and I just did it. So 10 o'clock, I just sent you a text message.
Same number?
But, that's Mayor Pugh, and, I just respect her, and I respect us, man. I respect Baltimore. Like, you know what I mean? The people in this room who have impacted me, including yourself, Mark, like, we have a lot of love. We just got to be stronger, right? And we got to learn how to circle the wagon, all right? We circle the wagon. We put protection on one another. And one of the lessons that I learned from Mayor Pugh's leadership is that ain't nobody coming for you, not even the people who you help. Ain't coming for you. Ain't nobody. Listen, to be a bold leader for us as a people means to eventually be abandoned. That's what it means. You accept that. You're going to be abandoned, all right? There's going to be an attempt to slander you, write your name out of history. There's going to be an attempt to disconnect you, all right, from whatever line of resources. When I left college, all right, there was a guy by the name of Reverend James Bevel. All right, Reverend James Bevel was the person who actually seeded the idea for Minister Farrakhan to do the Million Man March. Reverend James Bevel had a class that he taught every Saturday for those of us who were interested in making a serious impact on the community. And we were studying with Reverend James Bevel, and I met Reverend James Bevel because his daughter said, you need to meet my father. Even though I knew him, she said, I said, who's your father? I said, Reverend, I said, that's your father? Yeah. He had a class. And in that class, he taught, number one, long-term planning, right? And he told us in order to be able to do this work, all right, you have to understand that your enemy is real, and they're going to do one of 5 things to you, right? He said the first thing they're going to do is they're going to ask you to stop. And once you refuse to stop, then they're going to go to the people who are around you. They're going to say, well, tell them to stop. And if they can't do it, then they're going to find out your supply line, and they're going to try to cut your supply line off, right? While they slander your name. And if that doesn't work, what they're going to do is they're going to incarcerate you. This was my training. It's my training. In 1995, 1996, that's what he told me. He said, and if incarceration don't work, he said, you have to be prepared to be killed, because that's what they do with strong leaders. He said, so Chase, he says, I see something in you. I'm listening. He said, it's all about form, Chase. He said, our people have not been able to develop and craft a form that the enemy doesn't know how to counter. Right? So, Reverend James Bevel, I'll put that aside. A lot of things happen. But I left there thinking, what's my strategy? What's my form? Minister Farrakhan had created a book, I think it was 1994, called what's the name of the book, George? It was not Torchlight for America. It was the book. It may have been Torchlight for America. I think it was. But in that book, he outlined, what he saw the future to be, and he said that in that book, he said that I think it was chapter 3, is that we needed people to impact entertainment. All right, he said our entertainers were going to ultimately be our leaders. So I switched my strategy, and I went into entertainment. I went into entertainment as a revolutionary tool because I recognized that there were 3 different groups that had great influence on black folks and what they do. Number 1, you have your preachers, and preachers were losing power. All right, because our people had disconnected themselves from the church. Number 2, you had the politicians. You have very few politicians like Mayor Pugh. A lot of those guys who I knew in college who were saying they were going to be politicians, they had already sold their soul. That it was a job for them. So, can't do that. So the last P was to be a promoter. Because the difference is, the whole science of promotion is when people die, they party. Somebody's born, they party. They get married, they party. They have a divorce. Oh, they're going to have a party. Hey, man. Our people, the spirit of our people is a celebratory spirit. So as a revolutionary strategy, I got into entertainment. And anybody who knew me in 96 or 97 looked at me in 98 and said, what is he doing? That's a 360-degree turn. But what they didn't know, that on October 1st, I had been invited to Minister Farrakhan's table. They didn't know this. Never told them. And I had told my mother 6 months before, because Minister Farrakhan was my guy. And I knew my level of commitment. I knew my level of training. I knew that this was something that I was called for. When I was a kid, I ain't for a star. I remember this stuff. And I told my mother, I said, Minister Farrakhan gonna call me and I'm gonna meet him. My mother was like, okay, boy, you keep wishing on that. So I got a call in the middle of the night, told me to meet Dr. Leonard Horowitz, who had wrote a book called AIDS and Ebola, Emerging Viruses. And I was the only person that he knew who had any knowledge of the Nation of Islam, right? He felt uncomfortable because he was a Jew, right? To go up and meet Minister Farrakhan at his home. Now, here's the story. All of this stuff happens at 11 o'clock. I got to be in Chicago the next day. I take a blind 6. Anybody ever play spades? All right? Remember, I got to go blind 8. I have more information. So I fly to Chicago on this whole idea, because I knew I was calling, right? And I get there and I realize I don't have no information. And this was the time when you had to have the card, the numbers, the dollar number, you had to have them. So I'm like, how can I connect to get this information? So the Salon Bakery was there, and Gary Foster, all right, who had been a friend from Morgan, actually a person who was a Million Man March organizer, was in charge of the Salon Bakery. I said, let me call Gary. Gary wasn't there. I asked him, I said, listen, I know this may be random. And I said, but I got a call that I'm supposed to meet Minister Farrakhan at his house for a meeting that's supposed to happen at whatever time. They said, yeah, I did hear about that meeting at that time, right? Because apparently they said, let me call Minister Farrakhan's house. So they called Minister Farrakhan's house, and a sister answered the phone. She says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. We got a brother by the name of Derrick Chase, who says he's supposed to be here for a meeting with Minister Farrakhan, and the meeting is supposed to happen at 6 o'clock. She says, Brother Derrick Chase from Baltimore? I'm on the phone. I said, yes, ma'am. She says, Brother Derrick, this is Sister Dara. You're supposed to be here. Your hotel is here. This is where you got to go. Bah, 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 bah. So I'm like, man, I told you. I called my mother. Right? Like, I told you. I'm on a mission. I'm supposed to be up here. Man, I get up there. Go to my hotel. Now, the person who I was most like in terms of my study, because I read the Theology of Time over and over. Theology of Time is a book about how do we prepare for the future that was left by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I read it 1,000 times. I studied it, right? Because I was serious. Brother Jabril Muhammad, who wrote, I think it's page 18, right? You got 18, 19, and 20. You had Tanetta, who was on 19. Jabril was on 18. Mr. Farrakhan always had 20. By virtue of studying the final call, I was most like Jabril, all right? Because I was always in my head, I was a visionary. So I walk into my hotel, and I see a guy holding a book to his chest, and I walk past him, and I stop. I said, Brother Jabril. He smiled at me, right? He remembered when I was in an FYI class, he had jacked me up in the trade. He was telling you the guy I jacked up, right? I said, yeah. Hey, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm supposed to be at this meeting. He said, I'm supposed to be at the meeting. I go to my hotel, and the brothers, they come and get me. And I walk into Minister Farrakhan's home, and he opens the door. Minister Farrakhan opens the door. He grabs me by the hand. Assalamu alaikum, brother. So I'm looking at him. And this is so real. Because understand, like, this is like, I know where I'm going. I don't know if he know where I'm going, but I know where I'm going. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at him like, man, this is real. So he goes, and when you go into the house, you know, there's a small room, and you put the socks on, right? He sits next to me. I'm putting the socks on. I'm thinking, man, sitting with Minister Farrakhan, he got his socks on, right? I get up. They take me to the table. And anybody knows who's been in the house, the table can seat about 60 people. It's a long table. But there are 6 people at the meeting. Dr. Barbara Justice, Dr. Elaine Muhammad, Brother Jabril Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan, Mother Khadijah, and me, and then Harwood 7. And there I was, looking at the person who I tried to develop myself and be most in alignment with, because I believed that he believed in us as a people. And he looks across, and he's looking at me. He's talking. He said, do I know you, brother? I said, no, sir, you don't know. I said, I was in the Nation of Islam, because now, you know, I'm on my way to switching. I'm changing. He said, no, brother. He said, let me tell a story. He said, see, we all are people. We all are going up this mountain. Those of us who want to do this work. He says, and as we get to certain places on the mountain, he says, we can see each other. And I looked across, and I said, because I had already knew that I was going to meet him. And I already knew why. Because I had also studied the Honorable Elijah Muhammad more than I had studied Minister Farrakhan. And I knew that Minister Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had said that Baltimore was a place where he almost gave up on the nation. He said that the people here were stiff-necked and rebellious, hard to be led in the right direction, easy to be led in the wrong direction, hard to be led in the right direction. He said they were stiff-necked, and rebellious, right? Fast forward. Wow. I almost gave up the nation. He said, I gave it the number 6. And he said, if Baltimore could rise, he said, by Baltimore rising, he said, our world would rise. Not our nation, our world. That's what he said about Baltimore. So he named Baltimore 6 and he named New York 7. Right? Fast forward. I'm there. We have the conversation that we have. And I leave. And it's all coming together. I sit there and I talk to Brother Jabril, who I was most like. After that we left and we were walking in Chicago, and we sat down, and then I showed him the plan of what I was attempting to do in Baltimore. All right, and I told him, I said I was going to go ahead, I was going to attack the entertainment, and I was going to get aligned with all these promoters because they control Baltimore City. All right. And then I said I was going to create a cultural bridge between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, all right? And with the bigger goal of taking the state, all right, and making the state a power base for our rise as a people. Because when you study our history, the annotated slave codes come from Virginia and Maryland, all right? It wasn't national. They created it. And I always knew, see, I'm not over slavery. What's your motivation? I'm not over slavery. I'm not over it. I'm not over the fact that the person I call father died at 45. I'm not over the fact that my grandfather died at 59. I'm not over the fact that I'm not over none of that. I can attribute that directly to you. All right? Not only that, I've also studied myself beyond here to understand the Royal African Company. I know y'all had a monopoly on this thing. I done studied y'all well. So we're here now, and we have this vision where, okay, how do you take over? How do you become what you say you're going to become? How does it look? What does it look? How do you not get detected? Okay, if I look like a promoter, then they always think I'm partying and dancing. They always think that I'm silly. They always think that I don't have a clue. All the while, I'm just working and I'm just doing God's work. All right? So we built that up, promoters. We built an organization called BATA, Baltimore Area Entertainment Tourist Association. My conversation with Wes Moore, right? Because Wes and my son, I taught Wes's son how to ride a bike. Wes lives down the street from me. We used to, he sold a house. So I knew Wes. And when I was talking to Wes, before he became governor, like, Chase, what you thinking? And I told him I had always had a vision about how do we make this the center of power for us as a people. Mayor Pugh, she's mayor. Westmore, I know the time is off, but follow me, all right? Westmore, governor. We got Brandon. We work with Brandon, all right? Brandon know how I feel about him. I told him, all right? We'll work with them. But if we're smart and strategic, all right? Under Mayor Pugh's administration, here's another Mayor Pugh story. And this is my last one. I'm going to end this. Right? So I'm a student of history. Everybody who understands what Liberia is, right? Liberia was actually started from Baltimore, right? Started. Like people from Baltimore started Liberia. Francis Scott Key, if you don't know. Francis Scott Key, after what had happened in the War of 1812, War of 1812 is very significant because the reason the War of 1812 is so significant is because Negroes from Baltimore City and the surrounding areas had went into Washington, D.C. and burned it down. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Georgetown and saw it happening. He just happened to be on a boat in a harbor with those same Negroes because here's what the British did. All right? The British saw America going to take Canada. They said, oh, they're weak. They spread too thin. They made an appeal to us, black folks, in Baltimore City and surrounding. And they said, if you join our empire, whether we win or lose, you will have freedom. That's why you have the American Trinities in Trinidad. That's why you have blacks who are in Sierra Leone. All right? That's why you have blacks who are in Jamaica. All places where those are blacks, or Halifax, they were blacks from Baltimore City. See, all that to say is in the War of 1812, all right, this guy, Francis got key after, you know how it ended. They won, right? He goes and he makes this appeal, to the free blacks that's here, all right? Those who are free and free, two different things. Those who are free and free, all right? And they get together in the Quakers. And they say, well, look, y'all should have a colony of your own because we don't know if this thing will work out for you. Fast forward, I'm studying this history. I know that we have to have a relationship, a direct relationship with Africa, all right? I'm trying to figure out how you get there. I find out that they have this organization called the Baltimore Sister Cities. And there's a chapter that was defunct. I talked to a good friend of mine by the name of Topa, who's from Liberia. I said, man, your father's still the president of Huntington College in Liberia? He says, nah. He said, you need to know who my father is, man. Go research him. So Dr. Henry Clark was third in charge of Liberia. You had Sirleaf, you had Boca, and then you had him. He was running for to be the senator of Bunga County, which is the most powerful county there. And guess what? He was sending his wife over to Baltimore. I never met his wife, never met him, never talked to him or his wife. I talked to the son. He said, yeah, man. He said, the wife is going to be, my mom's going to be down there and she got to go into the joint. Just be there, right? I'm in sweat clothes. I run home. I put a suit on. I get back, I'm dripping in sweat. She's literally walking in. I start talking to her, boom, 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 shoot the willy bobo. I still got to get the guy, and I like women. All right? I got to get the guy. I'm in there, I'm walking in there. And then, guess where I have to go? Guess who's the mayor? She's the mayor. Right? No, here's the story. This woman never seen me a day in her life, right? We have to do introductions, right? Why are you in this room? So I said, I'm the ambassador for Baltimore to Liberia. She's like, she run with it. And 6 months later, I was in Liberia.
Come on now.
See, here's the thing that you got to know about me. And I'm going to leave with this note.
Come on now.
I'm not playing. No, you don't understand. No disrespect. You don't understand. See, because I understood my path from the beginning. I've never been off purpose since I was in second grade. Everything that I did has been a steady march to getting us out of this crap that we're in. When this whole thing with Fox 45 went down, all right, I penetrated in there. Put your phones down. I set up a meeting with David Smith at his house. Talk to him twice a month at his house. Behind enemy lines. Now, you don't get it. No, you don't get it. Man, you get it. I'm talking to him. And I don't play with nobody. I'm from Park Heights. Bro, what you gonna do? What we doing? Like we can get to it at any point. I'm down for it all. I'm the only one of my grandmother's grandchildren never went to prison. I ain't scared of that. All right, I live my life like, you know what I'm saying? I'm scared of no prison. I don't scare of your physical death. All right, and I don't believe that you have enough power to slander me because my relationship was built in the heart of the people because that's what my teacher taught. You tell a whole bunch of strangers, I don't care about them. My life is for them. But I'm sitting there with David Smith. All right? And this is with the attack with Maryland. All right? And I'm letting him know my perspective. All right? At the same time, I'm a business guy. So we cutting a deal on some other stuff. But we're not playing with that. Fast forward, I'm going to land on this note. When Maryland was going through what she was going through, I called the press conference at the garage. All of the media were there. Understanding this is Dave Smith. I was doing Fox 45. I know, I talked to him directly. After I did that, I get a call directly from David Smith. Derrick Chase, I see that you're standing beside Marilyn Mosby. I said the same way I stood beside Alex Smith. I stand beside who I want to stand beside. I said, we got to understand this, all right? You have a right to whatever you believe and the support, and I have the same right. If me and you are going to have a relationship, it's going to be a relationship built on strength, all right? He said, I respect that. And we haven't talked since. But that's the type of spirit that we have to have. So as we organizing, all right, as we're working, we got to be working for something greater than ourselves. The reason that I'm behind a lot of this stuff is because I understood one fundamental thing. If you're going to change everything, you better be in relationship with everything. That's why she was walking the street. How you going to change something you have no impact, you have no relationship with, you don't even understand, you don't tell you scared to get, you're scared, you don't understand it. So the reason I made a point to know those people and to impact those people and to do what I did is because I knew that we were coming down to this moment. Fast forward, back to Minister Farrakhan. He said, if you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that was October 1st, 1987. He said it's going to take you 20 years. In 2017, I started staying at Baltimore. Because I told him, in 20 years, bro, I'm just getting started. We're going to change Baltimore. We're going to change the world. We're going to, even though people don't believe it, we're going to unify. We're going to make sure Ertha have enough bread to hold the business down. All right, all this stuff, man, like, that's what we want to do. But I love you. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, my story is just a simple story of a Cheryl Lewis Creon Brown baby boy who found his purpose early and don't mind dying or killing for it. Because I feel that model.
Thank you for listening to the Reinventing Mark Clark podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share this, tell your friends, follow, subscribe, like, and of course, listen to all the podcasts on the Mark Clark Media Network.